First, the headlines. With a few weeks to go before the crucial baccalaureate exams, tension is still running high in the national education sector, now beset by a protracted teachers' strike. Algeria's surplus trade stood at $4.63 billion in 2014 against $9.94 billion in 2013, declining by nearly 53%. And countless demonstrators took to the streets across Brazil, protesting against the plague of corruption and demanding the impeachment of President Dilma Rousseff. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Dzair News and welcome to this English News edition. First, in our top stories, the Independent National Council of Representing School Teachers organized today sit-ins in front of the country's various education directorates as part of the teachers' strike movement, which has now entered its fifth week. The CNAPES union is intent on bolstering the national strike action in the few weeks days to press for its pending claims, despite the untold repercussions on the pupils' academic future. With a few weeks to go before the baccalaureate exams, tension is still running high in the education sector, with a never-ending feud between the Education Ministry and striking teachers. Meanwhile, the hapless pupils remain the only victims out there amid the CNAPES protracted strikes. Hence Minaras.
Only 3 days are left till spring break starting March 19th until the 4th of April, leaving only 70 days till the senior classes' final exams. Alas, a period not long enough to compensate the lost lessons due to the never-ending education union strikes, even if Ben Ghabrit's instructions would be applied concerning studying during the weekends as well as the first week of the holidays. Meanwhile, CNAPES teachers still hold on to the strike, which prompted the minister to solve this by providing every senior class pupil with a CD containing all the lessons, given the fact that they are the most affected by this and as a result mostly in need for them. Although this solution is considered a step towards using technology for education purposes, applying it under these circumstances was met with a wave of confusion, sarcasm, and rage altogether. Amid these infernal discussions between the ministry and the unions, the education sector is still heading towards a dead end. Only days before official exams, teachers protest in front of education directorates, and the minister bets on CDs.
A few days after the first round of the Libyan Dialogue wrapped up, the Algerian diplomacy comes out of its silence, criticizing the West and accusing some Western countries of not doing their fair share concerning the tackling of the Libyan crisis, while calling for serious measures to settle the issue once and for all. Hence Minaras again.
The higher power isn't doing its fair share in the fight against terrorism, or what Mahimahi stated days after the wrapping up of the first round of the Libyan Dialogue, which gives the impression that Algeria is apprehensive as to Europe's and the US joint involvement in the Libyan file. Under that same tone, the minister pointed out the lack of seriousness of the Westerners in tackling involvements in the region's crisis, whether it's in Syria, Iraq, or Libya in particular. The minister stressed that the Libyans do not want the same extremism and terrorism scenario the Syrian and Iraqi peoples are dealing with. The Algerian criticism of the higher power comes only 2 weeks after the NATO's admission of its military intervention faux pas in Libya. Nevertheless, NATO leaders didn't acknowledge Algeria's warning of the aftermath of their military intervention back then. Not only that, Algeria was subject to a major wave of diplomatic criticism, going to the point of accusing it of being pro-al-Qaddafi. Algeria's non-interventionist policy has now been validated 4 years later by the West. The latter announces it's now fully cooperative with the Algerian diplomacy in Libya, although these initiatives, and according to Mahimahi's encrypted messages, are still only media statements.
The first footage of the FCE delegation's arrival at the Africa CEO Forum in Switzerland announces the increase of the success rate in the biggest conference in the African continent, which has always been associated with poverty and underdevelopment, despite the fact that it has enormous raw materials to make it a leader among the world nations. Karim Fazakri illustrates more.
The first footage of the FCE delegation's arrival at the Africa CEO Forum in Switzerland announces the increase of success rate in the biggest conference in the African continent, which has always been associated with poverty and underdevelopment, despite the fact that it has all the raw materials to make it a leader.
Alors cette année, on attend 800 participants.
This year we're expecting 800 participants, approximately 600 of them are CEOs, and about 100 who are in the field of finance, who come here to finance the African companies.
Financer les entreprises africaines, donc c'est-à-dire le private equity, les banques commerciales.
The third edition of the forum will experience an Algerian participation such as the finance minister, Mr. Mohamed Jalab, as well as an important delegation that will represent the largest coalition of businessmen in Algeria. Many young African businessmen will seize the opportunity to lay forth a solid business platform and an atmosphere to kick back alive their country's moribund economy due to the security situation and mismanagement.
Rendre le produit algérien.
We're trying to promote the Algerian product, especially that of high quality, and with that policy we can sell our products all over the African continent.
Nos produits à travers toute la zone africaine.
The kickoff of the event in the evening drew a beautiful image of an expected success which many countries' dreams are attached to. Africa is going to be the focus of the conference and investors around the world. This is what the organizers of FCE Forum wanted. The message to send is that constructive cooperation is a reality.
On the sidelines of the Africa CEO Forum now taking place in Switzerland, the Algerian Finance Minister Mohamed Jalab had this to say about Algeria's manifold investment opportunities. Let's have a listen.
Well, I'd like first to point out that the customs duties levied by Algeria for external products are among the most enticing in the entire region of the Mediterranean. I must also recall that the foreign investment environment in Algeria is utterly attractive for potential investors who can benefit from a wide range of incentives of all sorts, allowing them to have a fruitful foothold on the Algerian market thanks to the Algerian government's reliable and flexible policy line.
Still with economy-related news, Algeria's surplus trade stood at $4.63 billion in 2014 against $9.94 billion in 2013, declining by nearly 53%. This marked slump in the country's trade surplus is imported by increased exports by around 3% during the last year in comparison with 2013. Mohamed Barozwan illustrates more.
Algeria's exports hit over $58 billion from January to late November 2014 against $59 billion in the same period of 2013, slightly down 0.68%, said the National Center for Data Processing and Statistics of the Algerian Customs CNIS. Concerning imports, that rose to over $53 billion against $50.19 billion, up 6.19%. These results show the rate of coverage of imports by exports of 110% against 118% in the same period of comparison, down 8 points. With this rate of evolution, the customs expect to wrap up 2014 with a trade surplus of about $5 billion. According to forecasts by the CNIS, the exports are expected to reach throughout a year nearly $64 billion, while imports are expected to hit $59 billion. The hydrocarbons continue to represent the bulk of the Algerian exports, with a share of 95.75% of the overall volume of exports, that is $56.2 billion during the first 11 months of 2014 against $57.23 billion in the same period of the past year. The revenues from all exports have indeed decreased slightly 1.84%, which is explained in particular by the drastic slump in world oil prices. The non-oil exports, which accounted for 4.25% of the total amount of Algerian exports, reached nearly $2.5 billion during the first 11 months of 2014. The non-oil exports are made up of semi-finished products, foodstuffs, raw products, industrial capital commodities, in addition to non-food consumer goods. Concerning the imports, two groups of products decreased, that is of energy and lubricants, and were set at minus 38.84%. Algeria's first 5 customers are Spain, followed by Italy, France, Great Britain, and the Netherlands. As for the main suppliers of Algeria, China tops the standings with over $7 billion, followed by France, Spain, Italy, Germany, and the United States of America.
In another file, the Minister of Health, Population and Hospital Reform, Abdelmalek Boudiev, said that the ministry's program for 2015 is heading towards the training of generalist doctors in other disciplines, and that the new approach to be adopted by the health sector in Algeria is geared towards home health care. Let's have a listen.
À domicile, et puis former ces médecins aussi pour tout ce qui est dépistage.
The goal is focusing on training of home health care and training these doctors, and concentrate on what we call the tracking system, at least to get the exact statistics, because some doctors give virtual numbers like 40, 50, up to 100,000 cases per year. I would say that we don't exceed 20,000. So with this training, we certainly will learn more, and we can sensitize our population. So we will go for it, and we will follow it through until the year 2019.
On va certainement cadrer, connaître un peu plus, sensibiliser notre population.
In another local topic, the Civil Protection has recorded in its various interventions over the past 24 hours the death of 18 people and the injuring of 55 others in a series of road accidents in several parts of the national territory. The heaviest toll was recorded on Sunday in Insaleh, 80 kilometers from the southern province of Tamanrasset, where a terrible road accident involving a heavy lorry and a transport bus killed 15 people and injured many more. Still with the local news file, residents across the capital Algiers and its suburbs felt their houses shake as a 4.1 magnitude earth tremor struck the province. The National Crack Geophysics Center issued a statement saying that this earth tremor struck around midday on Monday, adding that the epicenter of the quake was located 4 kilometers northwest of Al Hammam, Louen in Blida province. Fortunately, no casualties have been reported so far. We will keep you updated on this development story. And 55 kilometers from the city of Sitif in eastern Algeria, residents of the Bougaa locality struggle with the heavy traffic the hammam or spa of Gergur attracts. A lack of hotel infrastructure and parking spaces are just among a myriad of issues plaguing the much-awaited economic revival in the area. Mahimahi and the details.
This is the Hammam of Gergur, also known as Hammam Sid al-Judi. Gergur means hearing the movement of water released from the earth's core. The Hammam is located some 55 kilometers from Sétif and is ranked 3rd in the world with regards to the purity of its water. Only Germany and the Czech Republic springs rank higher, but it is the first in the Arab and African world. Water temperatures in the Hammam may reach up to 45 degrees Celsius. Our entire area knew of it for a long time. We also know that this Hammam Gergur is very rich in sulfur, so it's extremely healthy. I came from Paris, where I have free medicine and free healthcare, but I prefer coming here and paying for these benefits. And despite its popularity, the traditional hammam has been woefully neglected, and it is in major need of cleanliness and upkeep. No, it is not very clean. It's lacking a little. It's good, but in the summer it can be dirty. The hammam welcomes over 800,000 visitors every year. Many families in the area rent their homes to tourists. The lack of hotel infrastructure is particularly problematic as the major road leading to the hammam is very cluttered. Lots of popular markets have further exacerbated the situation, as the area only has one parking lot with a capacity of 70 vehicles. It depends on the day. Some days traffic can take an hour, 90 minutes, or even 2 hours. There used to be another parking lot around the corner. It is no longer in operation. People rent out their houses because there aren't enough hotels. There's only one tourist complex, and it is not enough. Between its natural splendor and human negligence, the area of Hammam Gargour remains an ideal place to have fun for residents who also profit from its health benefits.
Moving on to the international news scene now. Demonstrators took to the streets across Brazil on Sunday protesting against the plague of corruption and demanding the impeachment of President Dilma Rousseff. Her administration is struggling hard amid a weak economy and a massive bribery scandal involving the country's state-run oil company. Karim Fazzakri.
Brazilians have turned out in their thousands in cities across the country to march in protest at rising prices and corruption. An estimated 1 million people took part in rallies calling for the president to be impeached. Dilma Rousseff, who is in her second term as leader, is struggling to kickstart a sluggish economy. Many companies are closing, including mine, because the government is committing daylight robbery. I have 2 children and I want a better world for them than the way things are right now. This is a warning to the government. We want change. They change or we go back out onto the streets again. Rousseff is unlikely to be forced to quit, but a 5th year of economic stagnation plus a multi-billion euro corruption scandal has angered many of her usual supporters. The government has formed a crisis cabinet to follow all the demonstrations that filled the main Brazilian cities. At Government House, the last few days have been dubbed the end of the world week. From the Petrobras scandal to the rate of inflation, everything seems to be conspiring against the president.
In other topical news, Russian President Vladimir Putin has reappeared in public after 10 days of absence that ignited speculations about his whereabouts and his health. Vladimir Putin was seen on Monday meeting with Kyrgyzstan's president at the Constantine Palace in St. Petersburg. Karim Fazzakri again.
As rumors circulate over the whereabouts of President Vladimir Putin, who has not been seen in public since last week, Russian state-run television has broadcast a much-publicized documentary featuring the leader. The program focuses on last year's annexation of Crimea and contains an exclusive interview with Putin. After revealing he had personally organized the seizure of the peninsula, a journalist asked if he had been ready to bring the country's nuclear forces to combat readiness.
We were
ready to do so, replied Putin. I said it openly to other leaders that it is our historical territory with Russian people living there. They are in danger now, and we cannot give up on them. President Putin was last seen in public on March 5th, prompting a wave of speculations across the internet. Despite officials' insistence, it is business as usual. Images have been broadcast showing Putin meeting the president of Russia's constitutional court, but it has been suggested the meeting took place a while ago. A European newspaper on Sunday reported that the president was suffering from back problems and that he's receiving a treatment at home in Moscow. In theory, he's due to meet the president of Kyrgyzstan in St. Petersburg today.
And finally, to wrap it up, a word about sport. The Algerian football squad of USM Algiers largely triumphed on Sunday in the first round of the CAF Champions League competition over the team of AS Pekin from Senegal. The Algerians now have a comfortable lead ahead of the second leg fixture that is to take place 2 weeks from now in Senegal. Mahimahi once again.
USM Algiers overcame an early deficit at the Omar Hamadi Stadium of Bologhine last night, winning 5-1. Tiama Niang opened the scoring with a diving header for last year's Senegalese champions, but USM Algiers responded as Nassim Bouchemma knocked in a rebound and Qadour Biljilali hit a daisy cutter from 30 meters. Karim Baitesh and Rashid Naji came close to furthering USM Algiers' lead with acrobatic efforts in the second half, but it would be Rabi' Miftah who added a third from the penalty spot. Naji was then sent off petulantly for hitting a Pekin player in the face, but USM of Algiers still managed to add 2 more goals via Youssef Belaidi and Miftah. Coach Otto Pfister's men can now travel to Dakar serenely, having built a comfortable enough cushion in the first leg. The semi-final drawing of lots took place last night at 6:30 in the evening to determine who would face one another in the 2015 Algerian Cup. ES Setif drew league leaders Amo Bejaia, while RC Arbia will host the winner of NRB Ashir versus ASO Schliff.
The end of our English News edition, brought to you live from Dzair News channel. Thank you so much for tuning in our way. Bye-bye.